Oh, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and this is my show. You see how that goes? It is. We are recording today on November 15, 2022. Thank you very much for letting me into your ear holes, whether it's on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes or on your favorite podcast feed. Look, if you're listening to this on YouTube, do me a solid. Give the video a like. Consider subscribing if this is the first time here. If you're first time here, right? Because that helps us grow on YouTube. You can also do the same thing on your favorite podcast feed, wherever you listen. But on top of that, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can give a 5-star review, and that stuff helps out a great deal as well. Plus, 5-star ratings on Spotify are a thing too, so you can do that as well. Oh, that is fantastic, and it helps the channel out a great deal. This week I did a AEW Full Gear 2022 preview show because we have that big show coming up in a couple of days. So while I do talk a little bit about Full Gear, I'm not giving my full thoughts because I've already done that. On top of that, I didn't do it alone. I was joined by Fightful Overbook's own tag talk duo of Haley and Kylie. They joined me, both of them, to break down the entire card. So it's a nice, fun, enjoyable breakdown of the entire card, pinpoint precise predictions on top of that. It's available right now on everywhere. YouTube, podcasts, you can listen to it. Maybe not right now. If you started listening to this, finish this, and then go and move on to the preview show. But we break down everything, and it was a good time. Shout out to both ladies as well, because they were just absolutely phenomenal, and just a great conversation, per usual. With the quality of guests that I have here, but Haley and Kylie are in are in their own little. They set themselves apart. There you go. That's what I wanted to say. They set themselves apart. So look, we're gonna jump right in here. Of course, per usual, there's the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord that's there, and with all the insecurities around Twitter and how will I be able to connect with pro wrestling fans and so on and so forth, come and join the Discord. I mean it seriously. You couldn't find a better place to come in and chat about pro wrestling and laugh and have a good time. And, we get, there's some impassioned discussions. There's a lot of goofing off as well. We enjoy all aspects of pro wrestling. So come on in. The link is in the description. We would love to have you. And, it's a good place to continue to connect with pro wrestling fans, especially if, Twitter goes the way of the dodo. You see, the bluebird, the dodo will be able to say, things go the way of the Twitter moving forward, but we probably will never say that. Warren, what are you talking about? So there's that. Don't forget, on Thursday, there's the AEW Dynamite review that will be coming up. It's going to be the Go Home Show, the AEW Go Home Show that will be popping up on Thursday. So you don't want to miss that as well. So you got to make sure that you're subscribed to wherever you follow the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Plus, on Friday, for Friday at noon, I will be doing Going Broadway, which is the members only stream where we talk about all sorts of things that I didn't get to talk about today, such as the NWA. Might talk about it Friday. I don't know. I don't know how much you guys are burnt out or not on the NWA. Well, the only way you can find out is if I'm going to talk about it, is becoming a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. You click the join button, you become a member. It's a little way to show some support. Plus, you get some extra content from your boy. How about that? So as for today, though, on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about some bits and pieces in regards to AEW. Eddie Kingston's match with Jun Akiyama is coming up. We're going to be talking about some details on Full Gear, maybe talking about some of the business regarding how well I feel Full Gear is going to do. Got some thoughts on Jamie Hayter becoming champion or not. So there's that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Sasha Banks filing trademarks, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and a big preview of the historic New Japan Pro Wrestling Stardom show, which just turns out to be called Historic Crossover, which is going to be happening this weekend on November 20. So I'm going to be previewing that. It's a big show. Lots of stuff that I got into. So thank you for being here. Let's just get to it. And we're going to move right in to say something nice about Bill Goldberg.
MrWarrenHayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
whenever people talk about a recession, Goldberg never really seems affected. He always responds, I don't care, I'm already bald.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
We're almost done. we're almost done with the nice things about Goldberg. I'm so stoked. Weekly wrestling inspection. What am I doing? Now, I wouldn't want to see, I wouldn't want to say that I'm in such a really good mood today. Like everything's flowing and, I don't feel like the weight on my shoulders, like there's a huge weight on my shoulders, that I feel free and light and so on and so forth, because I decided to stop watching WWE. I don't want to say that specifically, okay? But because we need a little more we need a few more weeks of this to see if there's a direct correlation or if this is a coincidence, okay? Because I told y'all last week, right? That I'm done. I feel like I gave the Triple H era that everyone got really excited about and was telling me constantly how good it was. I felt I gave it the best possible shake. Last week broke me. I was like, no, I'm good. I'm done. We're moving in. Thank you very much for believing in self-care. But there's one thing that I do want to mention, because my position is still going to be the same in regards to WWE, okay, as I had started a few months ago. If in my haunts, in my circles, I'm going to reach out to people and be like, is there anything I should watch? Is there anything that I should jump in and that I should go back and look at? Was there something extremely good or was there something extremely bad? On both sides of the spectrum, right? And everyone was talking about Austin Theory, so I did go take a look at it. And look, like I said, like in regards to the Austin Theory stuff that happened last night on Raw, I have no more pony in this. And Austin Theory he's not a guy that I'm interested in. He's not someone who makes me tune in to a wrestling program. I don't care about Austin Theory. He does not have qualities that I look for in a wrestler. He does nothing for me. All right? Like just, and there's just wrestlers like that. And there's some in AEW as well, but it's like, all right, this is a guy where I'm like, I don't care. Now, from what I'm seeing is that we're doing a full turnaround, right? Like I heard his promo and, the thing, now he's aggressive. Now he's got a chip on his shoulder. And I understand why they did this, was to wash the stink of Vince off of him, right? Where Vince saw this one path for him into becoming, a superstar, and the Money in the Bank briefcase, once again, completely devalued, and so on and so on. And then people have been telling me, Warren, Austin Theory's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. I don't care if he's going to be fine or not. Like, this is the thing. It's like if he has the WWE machine behind him, he's going to be fine, or at least he should be fine. They should be able to make a star out of him because it's the biggest fucking wrestling company in the goddamn world. He should be a star if they want to make him a star. It's not a problem. And we know how they go about it. Maybe things will be different down the line with Triple H, but we know how WWE operates. We know how they do this. They come in and they have us, they have the guy. They have a John Cena, they have a Roman Reigns, and this is the guy they're going to push down our throats until we fucking accept it, right? If they want to make that, if they want to do that with Austin Theory, that's what's going to happen. It's fine. Of course he's going to be fine. And on top of that, they have a director of long-term storytelling. So I goddamn hope he's going to be okay, But I'm off the point that I wanted to make here. Last week, and myself included, we were all losing our minds over the the Money in the Bank loss, and how Austin Theory was the chump, and so and now they're moving into this new direction with him. They're trying out something. They're not retconning what's happening. They're using it as leverage to take his character into another direction. So you can't help but feel that, as I've said in a couple of occasions now, because it's a fairly recent thought that came to mind. This is still an example of hot take culture. The idea that you absolutely have to react. You have to react now. It's happening. You have to get onto Twitter. You have to put out a thought instead of, as corny as this sounds, maybe letting some things play out. Of course, look, WWE doesn't exactly have the best track record and has a history of shitting the bed when it comes to continuity and giving us payoffs. So I can get that we're all a little jumpy, But it's one of the reasons why, it's like, when I was thinking about doing the Dynamite show, the Dynamite review, maybe I should do it, after Dynamite. I'm like, no. I'm going to sleep on it. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to wake up the next morning. I'm going to be, everything's going to be fresh. I'll think about, write up some notes, make some connections. I'll see how things all fall together and have a well thought out perspective as opposed to, oh my God, this sucks. Of course, there will always be that, but there's always be a part of that. But I feel like the whole Austin Theory deal that that we all lost our mind last week, and I'm including myself in this. It's hot take culture that is pushing us to have these instant reactions where it's like, no, this sucks, as opposed to take a step back and give it a couple of days to breathe if you need to. But maybe something is going to come out of this. I think that's ultimately what I feel about when I think about Austin Theory now. When I see how all of this is coming together, I'm like, might as well just if we had just given it a week more, be like, oh, okay, I get it. But again, it's not as if WWE has this built-in good faith when it comes to their creative process that we can sort of lean back on and say to ourselves, hey, everything's going to be fine. Guys, gals, non-binary pals, don't worry about it. The fine folks, the fine creative brains at WWE have got this. So maybe this could be a significant starting point to this vaunted Triple H era, which I feel has been overhyped to this point and hasn't really delivered, hasn't changed anything. And, the show is back to where it was, if you ask me, and not just creatively. Viewership numbers are telling as well. We're back to the same levels as last year. So whatever interest was garnered is back to being what it was. You still have the same crowd. So, but as we joked about in the Discord when we were talking about me not watching Raw anymore, not tuning into SmackDown anymore or NXT, and so, we were joking around and saying, oh, so you're a casual now. You're exactly the audience WWE wants. So there you go. Before we started recording, I threw up a poll for the live viewers of the Mr. Warren Hayes show on Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Threw up a poll asking them what they'd like me to lead off the show with, because I wasn't quite sure. It's going to be a bit of an odds and ends show tonight. We've got things a little bit everywhere. But the majority of the peeps popping in tonight wanted me to lead in with some AEW notes that I have, because I have a few things that I'd like to talk about in regards to the wacky wild world of all wrestling entertainment. You get it? We learned towards the end of last week that Eddie Kingston is going to be in a tag team match with his pal Ortiz. He's going to be taking on the returning Konosuke Takeshita, which is dope as hell. He's back. He's going to be back in North America. But more importantly, I believe he will be in that tag teaming with Konosuke Takeshita is going to be one Jun Akiyama. which is a big deal for Eddie Kingston. If you have read any of the multiple interviews that Kingston has done over the past few months, years at this point, he's mentioned multiple times how much of a dream match it would be for him to fight Jun Akiyama here. And look, here's a quote that came out of an interview that he did over at Fanbyte, rest in peace, fanbyte.com. He said, about how excited he would be to join him. He said, I would chop him, smack him, hit him, suplex him just like he would do to me. And we would fight, and it would be great because I just like fighting in that ring. I know I would learn something from him in the Kings Road style. It would be the highlight of my career. And once these elements started popping up, there was a bit of a grassroots movement from within the hardcore fan base trying to get, someone to book this, match with, trying to get Tony Khan to put this together, getting AJPW's All Japan's Jun Akiyama here. And I'm excited for it. There's people in the chat who are excited for it. And why wouldn't you be excited for it? Because this match is going to slap. And I mean, you could be here and I talk about multiple times about New Japan, Stardom, so on and so forth, because these are promotions I follow quite a bit. Don't talk about All Japan all that much. Don't watch necessarily the current product as much, but I am familiar with who Jun Akiyama is, saw quite a few of his matches. And, maybe just to give some depth, some context, just in case you're not quite sure who this guy is, and why this is a big deal. This is a guy who's been wrestling since the 90s, and he's usually a part of that conversation when you're talking about people who debuted as rookies and just picked up wrestling so naturally and so fast. He's usually included in those conversations. When we talk about Kurt Angle, and how Kurt Angle is like, oh, he was a natural, he just picked up all the elements. Akiyama was the same way. And he worked in All Japan, worked the Kings Road style alongside the pillars, right? And particularly with Misawa, and he was incredibly over with the fans because he was a young guy working this hard-nosed style with Misawa, Kobashi, Taue, Kawada. He was able to work that style with them. And, some people even say, if those four were the four pillars of All Japan, and if there had been room for a fifth, it probably could have been him, and that's the thing. And so he's had this fantastic career, having extraordinary matches, wrestling legends, and becoming one in the process as well. He's still wrestling today. And he's still very much a practitioner of Kings Road. He followed Misawa when Misawa left All Japan and all that mess, and to found Noah. And if I'm not mistaken, Akiyama was even positioned to be the ace of the company when they started it all. And he's had a hardworking, steady career for himself, and as I mentioned, really turning into a legend. And Eddie Kingston, he's always been an All Japan guy. Like, he patterns his style off of Kings Road. The colors that he wears on his trunks are significant, are representations to the pillars. Misawa specifically, or quite a bit actually. So fighting for him, watching tape, training, seeing these guys beat the shit out of each other, trying to translate that into North American rings, trying to wrestle that style. He sees Jun Akiyama, who's he still wrestling today. He'll be Akiyama. Fighting Akiyama will be the closest thing he'll ever get to fighting the pillars or Baba himself, right? This is a match that he's been wanting for a while. So I'm stoked about it. It's a tag match for whatever reason. It's like, I'm pretty sure Eddie would be like, probably in his heart of hearts, he'd be like, I wish I just had a singles, a one-on-one with him. But this is still going to deliver. This is still a big deal for him. And it's a bit of a big deal if you're into this stuff. If you follow Eddie Kingston's career, if you're into AEW, if you're into pro wrestling, this is a big deal for him. And I'm glad that this is the kind of thing that we'll be able to see as wrestling fans and be able to enjoy it for the meta story that exists around it. That it's not just about this is the thing that pro wrestling that makes pro wrestling cool sometimes, is that when everyone talks about stories, and we need stories but sometimes the real life aspect of it, the meta of it, can leak in, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't change our appreciation. We don't need weeks of Eddie Kingston stealing Akiyama's robes and and dodging them at every given what I'm talking about, just shit. We just have this umbrella, this meta situation here. Again, meta is the best word I have right now to describe it. Where you have Eddie Kingston, who really wants, wants to get into it, and I honestly, I hope it works out for him. I really hope it works out for him. I hope they have a fun match. I hope they have an exciting match, and this is a headliner for Rampage, and then Konosuke Takeshita's back, which is fantastic news for AEW, because Takeshita turned out to be he had his excursion in North America turned out to be a star-making performance for him, and not in the Money in the Bank makes a star out of someone when they can, a legitimate star-making performance. He came in out of nowhere, had these fantastic matches with top guys who everyone was excited to wrestle him, and it just put him over completely. Now he's coming back to AEW, and all signs point at this moment, right? All signs point to Takeshita coming back, hanging around AEW. All signs point to him having probably a much more serious push this time around, because he'd lose the big matches, but that's fine. He's on excursion. He's on loan. He doesn't have a contract. Everyone was like, put a title on Takeshita. He's like, he doesn't have a fucking contract. Don't put a title on someone who doesn't have a contract with your company. Look at what happened with New Japan. You don't do it. But now, if the working relationship is solid and it's strong, this is what we have moving forward with him. It's like there's so much good stuff that can come out of this. Yeah, like Takeshita versus Garcia. I mean, there's already a slew of matches you want to see with Konosuke Takeshita at this point. So this is a headliner for Rampage. And you know what? This is what I've noticed for Rampage recently, right? Because this, the story has been Rampage has become the B show, right? This has been the story for months now. Very, very tepid, uninspired Rampages. Numbers are going down. They're still doing good numbers for a fucking Friday night at 10 p.m. Don't get too excited there, Warren. Take a step back. But you know what I mean? It's still, sure, Dante Martin and Takeshita too. That'd be dope. But we get to the point where Rampage now, I feel what's been happening over the past couple of weeks is, again, Tony Khan said, not again, but, sort of to give more context to this, said a few weeks ago, multiple weeks ago at this point, that, he was going to try to bring changes to Rampage, because he's aware, of the numbers and, people losing interest and so on and so forth. So what I've noticed is that it's become a little more of the hardcore fans show. It's become a little more of the show that you tune in to listen, to see matches that you won't see necessarily on a Wednesday, where he'll bring in these He'll bring in Katsuyori Shibata out of fucking thin air to have a match on a Friday night. Now he's bringing in Jun Akiyama to fight Eddie Kingston, a match that hardcore fans have been manifesting, helping Eddie get along, right? So I think this is overall part of the strategy, and there's no mystery to Konosuke Takeshita showing up on a Rampage as well on his return from Japan back to North America. There's no, to me, this is the angle that he's taking, Tony Khan. This is the slant, I should say, as opposed to angle. Angle means something else. But this is the slant he's taking. I wouldn't be surprised that Rampage becomes more and more of a destination for hardcore fans. Because who else tunes into pro wrestling at 10 p.m. on a Friday night? It's not a casual. It's not a QR code seeker. It's someone who will get excited at the idea of seeing Katsuyori Shibata in his first match since January, third match since his career-ending injury. Right? This is the kind of shit that makes me breathe, that gives me life. And I'm like, yeah, let's fucking go. Jun Akiyama and Eddie Kingston. Don't call me on Friday. Don't even try to reach out to me. Hello, Warren. This is a hospital. Your children were in a fiery crash. Sorry. The fifth pillar of all Japan is here. I've got some King's Road to assimilate here. Give me 10 to 12 minutes. I'm joking, of course, but that's what I mean. So and when you think about it, it makes sense. It makes sense in that perspective because it is wrestling nerds that will watch wrestling on a Friday night at 10 p.m. It is, and I mean that lovingly because I'm absolutely a wrestling nerd. So why would you not put these killer matches? And then have you noticed? Then there's no one is going to, if he had done this for Dynamite, because I saw the argument, was why didn't he put this on Dynamite? Because you know what would have happened on Dynamite? Then he would have had the legions and legions of people coming out and saying, who's Jun Akiyama? There was no build to this. Just because it's on a Wednesday night. And then they tell me casuals don't watch wrestling. And then you have people get pissed off about, but no one says a thing about Friday Night Rampage. And I keep circling back to this, and I keep these mythical casuals that we keep talking about. The casuals have their program. They have their shows. They have 7 hours of it per week. It's all theirs. If Tony Khan wants to turn AEW Rampage into 1 hour of dream matches, of flaunting his relationships with other promotions and flying people in because and just on their name value, if he wants to bring in Keno from Noah to fuck up John Silver, for instance, and don't tell me you wouldn't want to see Keno versus John Silver without having weeks to build to it, without having, just next week on Rampage, Keno versus John Silver, and I lose my shit. That's fine. Mayuri Watani versus Willow Nightingale. Let's fucking go. If he wants to turn it into that show, I am all for it. Yeah, you see what I'm talking. Let's go with Psycho, like Bill Bodkin said in the chat. Let's go with Psycho Circus. Bring Yano, Vikingo. That's it. If it becomes the Carol Burnett show of pro wrestling. This is a terrible analogy. But she'd have her set group. No, the Muppet Show. There we go. There's one we can all get around. The Muppet Show, where you have all your regular cast. You have all your cast of characters. You have Kermit, you have Fozzie, you have Gonzo, you have Miss Piggy, you have Scooter. You remember who Scooter was? Does anyone? in the chat, this is one I'm throwing out to you without looking up on Google. Do you remember who Scooter was on the Muppet Show? So moving along here, they had this whole crew, but they'd always have this one guest per week, right? The human, right? And sometimes it's a legit fucking person where you're like, oh my God. Okay, cool. Everyone knows who Scooter is. I'm excited. I had a Scooter doll too. Here's a bit of a sideline here. I had a Kermit doll, and I had a Scooter doll as well. Now here's the most fascinating part. He had everything, right? The orange beak head, and the little things, and the small round glasses, and the green jacket, and the whole. His sneakers, and I shit you not, I kid you not, this is guaranteed. I promise you, it's no. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not trying to make you pop right now. His shoes, his sneakers, were made out of concrete. And I kid you not Warren, it must have been some really hard, like polymer plastic, like it was fucking concrete. And I promise, and I'm sure my mother stored it away somewhere. It's probably in boxes somewhere, but I promise you, they were the hardest fucking shoes. And when I'd swing Scooter around, I swear I'd create like a 10-yard radius around me where people would not come close, because anyone got beamed with that, get a fucking concussion. And I'm like, they're selling this for like with distance. I'm looking at them. How are they selling this for? His fucking feet are concrete. I don't know if it was an analogy for the mob. Was Scooter in them? Did Scooter find trouble with the mob? Is this like some weird Muppet lore that we're not aware of? This is all true. This is all, yeah. Honestly, time permitting, I will try to sniff around, and I will try to find Scooter with the concrete shoes. I promise. What was I talking about? AEW Rampage, making a show for nerds. Us nerds talking about so the Muppet Show analogy. There we go. That's what. So that's where we're all circling back here. Everything makes sense, folks. So the Muppet Show would do that, right? You have your regular cast, and you have one person come in per week, and you're like, holy shit, it's Ziggy, it's Milton Berle, it's Barbara Streisand. They're like, fucking hell. We're not getting the D-list. Like, if the Muppet Show were to follow the exact fucking pattern today, right? If it were to follow, if the Muppet Show were to follow the same pattern today, group of Muppets doing the show, and then you have one guest, who hangs around backstage, just the one human guest. And I'm not talking what they did on ABC a couple of years ago, which was all right, but wasn't great. If they did the exact same thing they did in the late 70s and the 80s with the Muppet Show, they wouldn't be getting A-list people like they did back then. They'd be getting, they'd be getting reality show stars, right? They'd be getting The Miz. That's who'd grace the Muppet Show. You try to reach out to get like Angelina Jolie. You'd reach out to get Zendaya, right? You'd reach out to get I don't know, Jordan Peele. And they'd be maybe Jordan Peele would probably do it though. Bad example, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You'd end up getting, you'd want Taylor Swift, and instead you'd get, I don't know, someone else, someone terrible. That's the thing. It's like it's not the same. Anyway, AEW Rampage is like the Muppet Show. That's what we get Billy Corgan. We'd go for Taylor Swift, but we'd end up with Billy Corgan. There you go. Score one for AK Germany 96 in the chat. Fucking hell. How about we my glasses are getting misty. Okay, how about we do a little update on the World Title Eliminator tournament? How about that? Because that thing is moving forward as it stands right now. We've had 3 first round matches that have occurred. We have 3 results here. We have Ethan Page who defeated Eddie Kingston. I told you all last week to brace yourselves for Eddie Kingston to lose. Hopefully you were. I'm telling you, for all the reasons. You got to listen to Warren sometimes. Ethan Page went forward. Bandito defeated Rush on Rampage last Friday in a fine match. Didn't Meltzer give it a really high star rating? And I was like, this was good. It was fine. You know, it was a strong wrestling match. It was good stuff. But I mean, didn't he give it like a high 4 and something star? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I was surprised. The point being is that I was just surprised with the rating he gave it. It wasn't a bad match, but I was like, wow, all right, we're maybe going a little overboard here. And Brian Cage defeated Dante Martin in a fun little affair as well. So all we have left in the first round matches is Ricky Starks versus Lance Archer. And everyone was kind of losing their minds last week when the Ricky Starks match was pushed back to this week because Ricky was quote unquote not medically cleared to compete because he got beat up in an angle. And it's crazy how sometimes the old work is still the new work, right? Where people then get really bent out of shape and they're like, oh no, poor Ricky, they're going to screw him again. No, my God. But it's a good energy to play because it's a work and people are getting worked and no one likes to get worked, which is weird because why do you watch pro wrestling if you don't want to get worked? This is a work and it's fine. And I'm sure we will be able to get to Wednesday. They're probably going to blow this match off on Wednesday, right? They're going to blow the match off on Wednesday. Ricky Starks, Lance Archer, then move to Rampage, Ricky Starks versus Brian Cage, and then we'll have our semis set. And this, when you think about it, makes really, really good sense booking wise. You've got your quarterfinal set up, Bandito and Rush, that's fine. You have those set up. Those are ready to go. But now the story you want to tell is the story of Ricky Starks, the guy who, has a groundswell of support, a grassroots level of support. Everyone loves Ricky Starks. And they love Ricky Starks backstage. And I can't point this out enough. People have the memory of a goldfish, even though it's been disproved that goldfish have very, very short memories, right? That's not a thing anymore. But they have very, very short-term memories. Wrestling fans have sometimes, because I've pointed to you, every one of you listening, watching, every time they pulled out Ricky Starks, they pull him out, they put him on the 9 p.m. quarter hour, which is a crucial quarter hour, because that's where you send out the big guns to keep people watching to the rest until the end. People are flipping channels, or it's just like, oh, maybe I should go watch whatever's on at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night. I don't know. I watch wrestling. I don't know what's on. Housewives of whatever, or an NBA match. I don't know. But I've been telling you, they put Ricky on there at 9 p.m. because they like him and they believe in him. If they didn't, they wouldn't put him there, right? So now we're coming over here now. What are you going to tell? This is the story you're going to tell. Wednesday night on Dynamite, just like Ethan Page got his big Dynamite win, they're going to give Ricky Starks his big Dynamite win. And then we're going to go to Friday because yes, he's beating Lance Archer. We've been over this. Lance Archer has to jump on a plane and head to Japan. He's in World Tag League, okay? Lance Archer is not winning this in any way, shape, or form. So Ricky Starks wins here. He carries that momentum onto Friday, and there's much less of a gap in your memory as a pro wrestling fan, and for momentum purposes as well. Ricky Starks has a big match on Wednesday. 2 days later has another big match that's even bigger. And then the day after has a huge match in the finals. This makes a lot of sense. You want this guy to be a babyface. You want him to have babyface momentum. You want people to get excited. You keep that momentum going in the shortest amount of time possible. Go. Boom, boom, boom. Give him these great come from behind. Because look at how this was booked. Lance Archer. Brian Cage. He's the underdog in all this. He's the small guy. He's fighting from under in every one of these matches. This is classic pro wrestling booking 101. And knowing Tony Khan, he's not going to try and swerve us and go, oh, you thought this was going to happen. We were going to do something else. No, he's going to give us what we want. He's going to make us happy, right? And then we're going to get to Friday. Ricky Starks is going to win his quarterfinal. Ethan Page is going to win his quarterfinal. What's going to happen at the end of those matches? What's going to happen at the final match after the last guy wins? The other guy's going to come out and we're going to get a stare down. Or maybe they're going to just start beating the shit out of each other. They're going to give us something. How is this not great? How was the decision to move Ricky Starks off of last Friday to Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, all in 1 week? How is that not good booking? I don't know why I'm mad. But I think, it's so simple. This is so when we talk sometimes when we talk about how booking in pro wrestling sometimes is so easy. It's so simple. You don't have to overcomplicate things. Then the story you tell at the semifinals, that's a whole other story. Ethan Page going forward, winning the Eliminator, Ricky Starks. You can tell good stories either way with Starks, with Page. I think you tell a better story with Ricky Starks losing. For Starks, I mean. I think there's a stronger outcome for Starks not getting the big win. But look, you can tune into my predictions show to hear the full thoughts here. But this is where we're at. And you know what? None of these matches have disappointed. None of these matches have been like, well, you know, been some good stuff so far, and hopefully, I'm convinced this is going to start cranking up. You got Bandito and Ethan Page. That should be a lot of fun. And don't sleep on what Starks is going to do here moving forward. I'm excited to see how this all plays out. But yes, I think we're all in agreement that Ethan Page and Ricky Starks are going to be in the finals, right? Right, of course. Yeah, I got some, like I said, there's a lot of thoughts regarding AEW Full Gear that you can listen to on the preview show that I made. But there's a couple of extra little elements that I'd like to talk about that we didn't have time to cover. One being this. I believe, let me put this another way. Not I believe. If I were Tony Khan and I'm booking this show, this Full Gear pay-per-view, and it's my first pay-per-view since the disappearance of Phil Brooks, CM Punk. And I want to put my best foot forward, and I want to get some buy rates and so on and so forth. You know what I'm doing? I am booking the Elite for a surprise return on Wednesday Night Dynamite. Because I have them come out. I have them challenge the Death Triangle for the Trios titles at Full Gear. And I think this is what's going to happen. Because I find the absence of Rey Fenix, Penta, and Pac from the Full Gear card to be highly suspicious. Highly suspicious. And I know a lot of people would counter this, and people I've talked to have countered this. No, have them them show up as a surprise at Full Gear. And I'm like, brother, sister, I don't remember who it was. Doesn't matter. I'm like, listen, I am in a position right now as the owner of a company that for the first year since the inception of my company, my pay-per-view buys are not having year-to-year growth, starting with Full Gear. Now, no one was expecting Full Gear, starting with All Out, excuse me, and no one was expecting All Out to do better business than All Out 2021, because All Out 2021 was CM Punk's first match in, eons. It did 215,000 buys. Like, only the most, either the most unknowledgeable or bad faith actor would turn around and say, if they don't do better this year, that's a failure. Like, there was no way they were going to do as much. And Punk was on the card. All Out this year, we're still, still getting full estimates still to come in. We're at 139,000 buys right now, which is, quite lower than last year, and is a downtrend from and is the first really notable downtrend, right? Because last year, and subsequently, it does mark the first pay-per-view where you don't have a year-to-year growth. Double or Nothing 2020, 105,000 buys. 2021, 115,000. 2022, 155. Revolution 2020, 90,000 buys. 2021, 135,000 buys. 2022, 175,000 buys. Full Gear 2020, 75,000 buys. 2021, 155,000. And this is where we're at this year. So I think Tony's first objective here with the card is to get buy rates. It's to get people watching, to get people to buy the show. Now, you've arguably lost the biggest draw in your company. Of course, we're still speculating. Hasn't been official. All signs point to CM Punk being gone, right? There hasn't been any official word. But you've lost the biggest draw in your company. And now you're at 100, and now you're staring down this barrel here, where I'm convinced that while All Out at 139,000 buys was still, I'm convinced that they see it as a success. I'm sure they're disappointed with the performance. Revolution, like I said, did 100 this year. Did 175,000 buys. Double or Nothing, 155,000. I'm sure they're disappointed that All Out drew 139. That it didn't hang in those waters. So there's a downtrend, first and foremost, in the number of buys. Plus, we're starting to see. It's the first time that there's no year-over-year growth for the pay-per-view buys. So, again, I'd bring the Elite on Wednesday, get people excited to see the Elite wrestle again, or whatever they're going to call themselves. Let's still call them the Elite, right? Because I'm still of the, there's a rebranding happening. They're not going to be called the Elite anymore. Whatever they call themselves, they're going to they're going to come out. They're going to get people excited. There are going to be people who are going to buy All Out just on the premise that the Elite are back. That is, I feel it shouldn't even be questioned. I don't even think it's an issue. You know what I mean? I think people are just gonna dive in head first and be super stoked about it, and I don't blame them. I'll be excited for them to come back. What are you talking about? And then jumping straight right back for the trios titles that they never lost. Let's go. Completely fine with that. And the feeling that you get right now is that the show needs a little help on the buy rate area. I've seen more than enough. Look, I have two thoughts on this, but I'm going to start with I'm going to go down this first path to begin with. You see I've seen a lot of talk and a lot of, thought pieces and tweets and whatever you want to call them. And you know what? I'm not super excited about the All Out card this year. Not the All Out, the Fallout card, the Full Gear. Jesus Christ. The Full Gear card this year. I'm ruining my own bit on top of that. Basically, people saying that they're not really excited about it. And it's like, I don't feel like any matches are hot. And I will agree with that to a certain extent. And I feel like, but I can't help but feel that for AEW fans, this card is spot on the money. I don't see, I don't see anything. I don't see anything in this on this card this year that is, an absolute disaster or breaks patterns that we haven't seen before. Three women's matches on top of that. You got the Acclaimed and Swerve in Our Glory was going to be fine. John Moxley, MJF, all of these things are all big helps. The four-way match for the Ring of Honor Championship. Tony Storm versus Jamie Hayter is a match fans just have been clamoring to see. Luchasaurus, Jack Perry flying off of a cage. Sting, come on. There's meat to this, and I think that I think it's usually the loudest voices, right? Who are, I find, always a little skewed and say, well, I look at the card and nothing really gets me excited, Well, but then again, these are the same people who are gonna, try to convince me that Logan Paul is a good idea. Whole other discussion. Maybe the card on paper isn't the most star-studded affair, but I don't see anything here that tells me this is going to be a bad show. And most of the time, and I do say most of the time, AEW shows and cards on Wednesday nights on top of that. People will look at the cards and like, what is this? What's going on? And then you turn out to have a great Dynamite. More often than not, or a great pay-per-view. More often than not. I would say that the first real misstep that AEW has had on a pay-per-view show was All Out 2022. Still don't think that show was all that great. I didn't really enjoy it. That there was not much to like on the show. But if this is a show this is a show that has to be significant for a couple of reasons. It has to be significant because to show that there is a clear and defined direction to what we're doing here, right? Something very clear, something precise that we're doing moving forward with now that we've cleared out whatever was going on in the locker room, that we settled everything that's been, affecting the morale and the performance backstage, and that was trickling on to television with some very strange bookings, sometimes some slapdash decisions that were being made, things that really didn't feel concise, that didn't feel precise is what I'm trying to say. Now, if Full Gear wants to be like a reset show, a show where, okay, well, this is the nugget that AEW is for the next few months, right? Leading us into Revolution, taking us into the new year. This is what All Elite Wrestling is going to look like. I think there's a lot riding on this in that direction, and I think there's going to be, if the reports are true, and if the locker room morale is better and so on and so forth, I think a lot of people are going to want to put their best foot forward here. I think the leadership, the locker room leaders backstage are going to do their best to get everyone into their best possible mood as well. So we'll see how all this turns out. But I think ultimately, one of the things as well that one of the things that will be indicative here is MJF's power of being a draw or not. Because there's a lot of talk about that, right? There's a lot of talk about MJF, being, I don't think anyone denies the amount of talent he has, how well-rounded he is. When he says he's a generational talent, that's a shoot. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone in good faith who would disagree with that. But then there's always the question of, he's going to be a draw, he's going to be a draw. Well, now he has the opportunity. He's jumping into the deep end. There's no CM Punk, there's no Kenny Omega, there's no, there's Jon Moxley up there. But the usual draw, the usual crew of draws that you'd rely on are not there. So if MJF is already carrying the star power that a lot of us portend that he does, it will be reflected in the buy rate. It'll be, here I'm talking buy rates, in the number of buys, right? Doesn't that make sense? It's a bit of a coming out party for him on that level. He wants to be the main event guy. He wants to be the top guy. Well, can he drag asses to this show? Now, apparently, I was checking out WrestleTix, and they have all but 1,000 tickets left, right? They opened up a new section actually just a couple of days ago. They were very close to being at capacity, as they usually do. And all arena shows do this. Then they move things around and make more tickets available. So that is about all but 1,000 tickets so that's good. Because AEW's live attendance since the end of the summer hasn't been all that fantastic. So this is good. That's a good sign. I don't know how exactly it's a tough one to call as far as this. It's not going to be a disaster. It's not going to be suddenly we're reverting to 90,000, 80,000, 70, that we go back to 2020 buy levels. That's just not something that's going to happen. I think, however, that I think whatever they pull out is going to be successful for them. Is it going to be a blowaway success? No. If Full Gear last year, with the coronation of Hangman Adam Page on the at the top of the bill, the thing that everyone was excited about, got us to 155,000 buys, plus CM Punk on the card as well. He was fighting, that was his match with Eddie Kingston. If we were at 155,000 last year, we're in a bit of a downturn here. And All Out did, estimates still at just shy of 140,000. I'm going to call 130,000. I'm going to call 130K. And if it's more, it's more. But as we're standing right now, and I might revise this Thursday on the Dynamite review. I'm giving myself that opportunity. I might revise my prediction for the buys, because if the Elite show up on Wednesday to drive up some business, I think we could start moving around the 135,000 mark. But as it stands right now, I'm feeling 130. Low end, very low end, would be 120. I think my median would be 125. No, 130 would be my median. I'm going to call 130. I'm going to call 130 for now. Revise it as needed, depending on what happens on Dynamite. I think we're going to get surprises at All Out, don't get me wrong. And I think one of the surprises we're going to get is a surprise that nobody really wants to hear. But I think Jamie Hayter is going to lose. I think Jamie Hayter is not going to win the AEW Women's Championship. And I will go I'm even going to go a step forward. I don't even think it's time to strap her up. And this got me some shocked faces during the AEW Full Gear 2022 preview show, which you should listen to, absolutely, when we're done here. Haley and Kylie, who were joining me, they were in utter shock when I told them I think Toni Storm retains. And not only that, Jamie Hayter should not be strapped up. It's not time yet because it's too soon. And I think that this idea that she needs to absolutely be strapped up, like right now, let's fucking go, is a very WWE pilled way of seeing things. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. And we will turn to Liv Morgan as a perfect example, where everyone was there was this big groundswell of support, put the title on Liv Morgan, and let's be honest, in the worst way possible, with the Money in the Bank and the way it was defended, her championship was defended. Like, it was not a good run. And all the hardcore support that she got, it sort of all petered away, and it didn't look good on her, and it tainted it. And I still maintain she's never going to sniff a singles title again in WWE. I don't think this is what we're going to do. I don't think that's the same case for Jamie Hayter. I just think that right now, her organic build that she has, because it's organic, she got herself over. No one else but herself got herself over. The organic build that she created for herself came because she bet on herself. She started working. She provided fantastic matches, and it's not her promo skills. It's her in-ring charisma. It's her work that got her over. And the audience got behind that. And then eventually Tony Khan started putting her in situations and matches where he's like, oh, okay, she's getting pops. Oh, we're putting her against this person and it's working out. Oh, we're getting crowd reactions when we get these Jamie Hayter and so together. He saw that build. He's like, okay. Right now, the most interesting match I can give Toni Storm right now without going immediately back to the Britt Baker well is to do the Jamie Hayter match. And they're going to have a fantastic match. They have on paper right now a match that can steal the show. They have potentially the makings of the best women's match in the history of AEW so far. All of the pieces are in place for that to happen at Full Gear. But the fact that her build is so organic, that she has this groundswell of crowd support, tells me, and it's bubbling, it's nascent. It's been just a couple of months. Why are we doing that? And why would you strap her with the interim title? Why would you do that? To then go drop it to Thunder Rosa? Would that be why would you do that? When you start to break this down, and then you say to yourself, look, one of the things that we criticize the AEW booking of the women's division is that the only feuds that we get, the only storylines, the only shit that ends up on pay-per-views are title matches. We're getting at Full Gear a reprieve on that. We're getting Saraya versus Britt Baker, which has nothing to do with titles, and I applaud. I appreciate that. If you have Jamie Hayter, who has gotten herself over, who people are cheering for, wanting to see her fight, if you have her and you can create quote-unquote mid-card feuds for the women's division based around her, having her fight Willow, Athena, fucking Riho, like have her toss, get her into a program with Shida. Like, let's do these things. Let's build her properly. Let's turn her into the monster to a degree that they wanted Nyla Rose to be. And Nyla is much more suited to do the, to do her Twitter shitposting gimmick, which is fantastic right now. Nyla's doing the best work of her career without being, the invincible beast. Jamie Hayter can do that because she's credible, because she's a great wrestler. Everything she does is crisp, it's sharp, it's believable. She's a very good pro wrestler. Unlike in other promotions, I would like to believe that the women can get over without the need of putting titles on them or having them be the only focus be on women who have titles and their challengers. I would continue to build Jamie Hayter, get her even hotter than she is right now, build her even stronger than she is right now, have her go on a tear, have her go on a run, have her divest herself of Britt Baker before we get into championship territory. Why not? It's not time. It's too soon, too early. We can squeeze more. There is so much more to squeeze out of this Jamie Hayter run than instantly going, oh, okay, she's hot, let's do it. Sometimes it's a good idea, but Jamie Hayter has such upside. Her ceiling is world champion for that company. Don't get me wrong. That's her ceiling. And she has such upside to be the worker, to be the Bret Hart to a degree. Could argue with Serena Deeb, but I think Jamie Hayter has more overall appeal. I think there's a lot more to get here. There's a lot more. Like Jamie Hayter could be the Bret Hart to Britt Baker, Shawn Michaels. You know what I'm saying? And jumping the gun, having her win the title, the interim title on top of that is, I think, will be a wasted opportunity. I know people are going to be mad on Twitter. People are going to lose their mind. They're going to @Tony Khan. But it will, trust me, it is the best decision right now. But what Tony Khan has to do is follow up. He has to follow up and go, hey, you know what? You didn't win the title, but we're going to have you do this, and this. We're going to have, this is my plan. Let him pull out his little spiral notebook and flip through the pages and have him show everything he's drawn out for Jamie Hayter over the next few months. She can't be on the sidelines anymore. I think we're all in agreement with this. And the only reason we want her to get strapped and people want her to get strapped is because we feel she's going to be sidelined if she doesn't win. And that's a booking problem. And it's a booking problem that the booker can fix. Can't say it enough. If the booker decides to push someone and make them feel important, the audience will buy into it. If he pushes the right people in the right circumstances, of course. But Jamie Hayter is the right person. And she is unheralded right now, but she can be someone that you can bet your women's division on. Be a solid, competent, professional wrestler that will have the engagement of the audience and that will be able to, on top of that, put on killer matches, carry the more inexperienced people, make sure that matches, because she's been doing this professionally, internationally for so long. There is so much upside to Jamie Hayter. It's weird that I'm using all of this to say, don't strap her up. But I think it's a mistake if they do. I think it's hot-shotting. And I don't think it's going to do her any service. And it's going to hurt Toni Storm more than anything else as well. So I just want to touch on this really quickly, but we have to talk about this. It was found out today that Sasha Banks, or AKA Mercedes Vardano, I can never pronounce her last name correctly, under her company, Solnado Inc., which was created just a couple of months ago, filed trademarks. Very interesting trademarks. This is Sasha Banks's company, Solnado or Solnado, to rhyme with her last name. I don't know. The point here is that she made 4 distinct trademarks, and they are as follows: Statement Maker, Mercedes Moné, Moné Talks, and Bank Moné. The trademarks are listed as for entertainment and merchandise purposes. I'm reading this off of the Wrestle Purists article, by the way. And it goes through a gamut of things. Of course, the usual entertainment services in the nature of live audio performances by an actor or musician, live visual and audio performances by an actor, so on and so forth, right? The usual rigmarole when you see a wrestler trademarking their things: entertainment services, providing online videos, so on and so forth. But also jewelry and imitation jewelry, pins, decals, stickers, posters made of paper, collectible printed trading cards, pictures in the nature of printed photographs, coffee mugs, drinking glasses, water bottles sold empty, hats, leggings, pants, shirts, socks, bandanas, sweatshirts, hooded sweatshirts, action figure toys, action figures and accessories, therefore, toy action figures. What is our girl Sasha Banks? What has she got? What does she have going? What's the sitch here? What's cooking, Sasha? Because she tweeted, right? She was teasing not that long ago, right? Last week, that she was going to be in Boston, right? In Boston, there was an event that wasn't in an AEW. I don't remember. I'm like, look, Sasha Banks, or was it Philadelphia? No, it's Philadelphia. Look, it doesn't matter. But when Sasha Banks starts tweeting out things that, oh, I'm in this town, she's not in that town. Or if she is, it's not for what you think it is. It's never for wrestling. It never has something to do with pro wrestling. But then, everyone's wrestling brain kicks in and they're like, oh, she's letting us know that. No, Sasha's a worker. She works us, and she works her fans a lot. She throws a lot of red herrings. So if she shows up somewhere, she's not going to let it know beforehand. This is going to be a complete surprise, right? So it's interesting that these trademarks are filed this week, a couple of days before Full Gear. Don't you think that's a little odd, a little strange, a little let me make you go kinda? I think again it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. In the meantime, she was announced to be a part of a Comic-Con next year, already in May, which is possible, But it's starting to make you wonder just how steady the relationship between Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné, which I like as a name, FYI. I know it's become very divisive amongst fans. I like it. I think it's very much her. I think you hear the name Mercedes Moné and you hear it in Sasha Banks' voice. You know what I mean? I think it works. It has rhythm to it, has beat, alliteration. I think it's good. But, I think it's a little unusual that, that it's all trademarked this week. Look, I don't know where to stand on. Outside that, my position hasn't changed. WWE needs Sasha Banks more than Sasha Banks needs WWE. And I know a lot of people are, butt of a little joke, where people are like, oh, Hollywood's not breaking down her doors. She's doing ads for, weed and shit like that. And who cares? This, she still has everything to prove, but the lady is being invited on to red carpet events, and she has connections, and she's been making these connections with all the appearances she's been making. She's in good graces with the Disney family. That's an extremely good sign for whatever they want her to do. She doesn't necessarily, it's not a question of suddenly being, the top A-lister of a, big budget blockbuster film or a prestige television show on FX or HBO. That's not necessarily the point. The point is that she can have easily a career out of WWE where she will shine and do her own thing and where she can provide tremendous amount of value on multiple levels without being in WWE. And again, WWE needs her more than she needs them. She is absolutely okay because she has alternatives. And even if it's not in the realm of entertainment, there's AEW wrestling. There's a New Japan belt that's about to pop up. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, though. There's a lot of stuff that she could still do. There's a lot of stuff that is still available for Sasha Banks to dip her toes in pro wrestling still. I'm not saying that she's going to erase it completely from her existence. What I'm saying, and this is what I've been saying from the start, is that she is bigger than WWE. She doesn't need them as much as they need her. Sasha coming back to the company is a huge deal. That is something you put on that is something that you erase all of the other goofballs on the Infinity Gauntlet meme, right? You erase them all. Well, you take off, Topped Dollar. You take off Braun Strongman. You can scooch, Johnny Gargano a little bit over here. You can shove Dakota Kai over there, But the Infinity Gauntlet is then you put Sasha Banks there. That's what she is. That's what she represents. And we've talked about this in the past. I'm Tony Khan. I'm getting all the monies to hire her because if there is one free agent pro wrestler out there that can be a legitimate game changer for any wrestling company who is not named CM Punk, it's Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, whatever it is she's going to go. That's her moving forward. That is an instant ratings boost. Instantaneous. She will draw people. Sasha Banks is a legitimate draw. She gets people watching. She gets people buying their merch. And her fans will follow her. They absolutely will. Now, is this what's going to happen? I have no fucking clue. And I was going down the path of, they're just going to return. She and Naomi are just going to mosey on back to WWE at the beginning of the year, like Sasha had said, or her agency had said that she would not be taking any professional wrestling bookings, right? Any matches until the new year, until January 1st. And then people are like, day one. Day one's in the tank. It doesn't exist anymore. So I'm not saying that she's not going to show up in WWE, but this adds a little extra wrinkle to the speculation, and one which weighs heavily into her not going back. Because why would you be trademarking your name, some taglines, some little slogans, little catchy expressions, statement maker, bank Moné talks, and getting all the, not just trademarking your name for entertainment purposes, live performances, the live by an actor, so like, jewelry, mugs, t-shirts, photographs, posters. Why would you be trademarking all of that if you're deciding to continue on with the Sasha Banks thing? Can she have, are we then led to believe that she could have negotiated something with WWE, which, is not unfathomable, albeit weird, and would be, I believe, a precedent as far as we know. Whereas she would have negotiated to come back to WWE, do the Sasha Banks stuff, but she would have oversight on her career outside of WWE and merch under her, her other name, her other working name. It all seems very convoluted, though, where you'd have Sasha Banks, you'd have Mercedes Rodano, you'd have Mercedes Moné. It all seems very convoluted, though. So I'm not quite sure. But, it does not escape the realm of the impossible. Or she could just be ready to sit down with Tony Khan and say, look, I'm ready to sit, but I own all my trademarks. Whatever we put up on Pro Wrestling Tees, it's mine. It's my money. And this is the check I want you to cut me. And if I'm Tony Khan, I'm saying, sure, yep, yes. I'm going into renegotiations soon. Sure, insider sources have been telling Fightful. Been telling Fightful that that we're all heading back. That the AEW will probably be re-signed into a pretty good deal. So let's go. All right. It's interesting, is what I'm saying. It's an interesting wrinkle. It leaves a good, and it's a good proper wrinkle. It's one that derails anyone who's anyone who's still going, oh, she's absolutely coming back 100%, is just doing it out of fandom, out of faith, because this should throw a wrench. This should absolutely throw a wrench, bare minimum, into how you're feeling, into Sasha's possibilities to return to WWE at this point. Doesn't have to be significant. I still think that the safe money, the safe bet, is on her going back to WWE. This lowers the possibility of that significantly, because I still don't know what this means. It could be protections for her if, when she does leave, if she feels she got fucked over by WWE one more time and she leaves again, she has all this to fall back on immediately. I don't know. We're not around the table. We're not there. We're not discussing this with her, with Triple H or whoever's involved in these negotiations. We don't know. Stephanie McMahon, Nick Khan, excuse me. Got to get my cons in order. That's what happens, but it's an interesting wrinkle. Also, interesting news that came out of the WWE as well is that Kevin Owens got injured. That kind of stinks, but that's not what I want to talk about, because I do want to move on, because I want to talk about the crossover show. But it's being reported that WWE has offered a match to Stone Cold Steve Austin. And this is according to a report from Fightful Select. I'm reading this off of the Wrestling Observer Figure 4 online website. According to a report from Fightful Select, WWE has presented Austin with an offer for another match. It is not clear if the match would be for WrestleMania 39 in Los Angeles, Saudi Arabia, or somewhere else. While Vince McMahon was said to have been hopeful Austin would wrestle again, it was the new WWE regime led by Paul Triple H Levesque that made the offer. One source noted to Fightful that the two sides were initially far apart on terms. That's what negotiations are for. There was also Steve Austin. He posted footage of him working out earlier this week. So, a lot of people are going, oh, he's coming in for another match. And he had hinted that he might want to get back into the ring. I think we are all very high on the idea of a Stone Cold Steve Austin, of a second Stone Cold Steve Austin post-retirement match, whatever you want to call it, since his WrestleMania 38 match this year. It was 38, right, this year? Yeah. Yeah, it was 38. Okay. But yes, So we were all very, I think we're all very high on that, and with good reason. With good reason, because the match was very good. It's one of my favorite matches this year. I thought it was expertly produced. I thought everyone worked their part perfectly. It was tailor-made for Stone Cold to not have to bump, on a ridiculous level, or put him into areas expecting him where the audience's expectation would be to work like it's 1996 again. You can't do that. But Kevin Owens and they made a little something special. We talk about smoke and mirrors often in pro wrestling matches when certain people can't work on the same level as others. You start throwing that expression around, and they smoked and mirrored this, but you'd be hard pressed to be like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. Oh, I see what they're masking. It was not as blatant and obvious as other occasions where old timers maybe are brought in, guys who are way past their prime, and are expected to work. Where this wasn't one of these situations where the obfuscation was obvious, if that makes sense. I hope it did. So I think it's smart. And Austin should milk all the money he can from this $1 billion company that wasn't exactly cool with him during the final days of his career. And, we know how tense it got between him and Vince and so on and so forth, which is the story with Vince and a lot of his top guys. It bears the question. It makes you ask, it's like, can they pull it off again? And I think they can. Of course, it all depends on the opponent. Can they pull it off again? Sure. But how many times can we pull off a match like we got at WrestleMania 38 without smoke and mirroring in different ways? Because we saw the pattern of the old match. If they did this, if they redo WrestleMania 38, you're gonna go. We'd be validated in going, oh, this is a little weird. This isn't great. But if they do something else, will it be as exciting? Will it be as well put together? Will it be as fun? And how many times can we go through old timer Steve Austin, severely injured, blown knees, so on and so on? How many times can we do this before the veneer of his return or his capabilities of wrestling again begin to crack once again? Because you have a shelf life with the amount of Steve Austin matches that you can pull back. If you're doing this, I think you do a Steve Austin match at WrestleMania, and I think if you want to make it different from last year, but you still want to make it special, you bring in John Cena and you have that match happen. And it's not going to be a 5-star classic. It's not going to be a work rate spectacular. It's not going to be, Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay. That's not what you're going to be tuning in for. You're going to be tuning into the show, the spectacle of two of the GOATs, two of the greatest to ever do it, two of the biggest stars in the business, two generations of WWE who both carried the company on their shoulders at different times in the company, clashing, doing a thing, providing an entertainment special. That's what, and I think that has value for a WrestleMania, because WrestleMania, I've come to grips with what WrestleMania is. WrestleMania is not a showcase of wrestling. It is a show. It is a showcase. It has nothing to do with the matches. It has nothing to do with the quality of the matches or the that's never what WrestleMania has been about for years. I don't want to say never, but it hasn't been like that for a long time. It's not how exciting the matches are. It's how much spectacle you get in your face. That's essentially it. And I I don't want to sound overly cynical. I get into it as well. I know what I'm getting into when I sit down to watch WrestleMania. I know what I do. I got out of my fucking seat when the marching band came out doing Bianca Belair's theme, and I'm like, this is one of the greatest WrestleMania entrances of all time, right here. And I'm hyped for it. Gets me hyped for the match. And the match on top of that happens to be very good. So I'm like, this is a perfect encapsulation of WrestleMania right here. But ultimately, what you want is the spectacle. That's why WWE fans are out there saying, well, Roman versus The Rock, Roman versus The Rock. There is no value as a wrestling fan to have Roman versus The Rock in a match. There's no value. What, The Rock is going to beat Roman Reigns for the titles? Who the fuck? What is this? Who cares? That makes no sense. The Rock who hasn't wrestled in a long time. What are we doing? That's one thing. But the value of the show, the spectacle of The Rock versus Roman Reigns is important for WWE fans. Has nothing to do with the match. They could sit around and pull figure fours on each other for 5 minutes and it wouldn't be a problem. So bringing Austin back for WrestleMania, more so than a Saudi show. You guys know what I think about the Saudi shows to begin with. But on top of that, if you're a WWE fan and Steve Austin has another return match in Saudi Arabia, I'd be fucking pissed off. I'd be a little peeved. Like Shawn Michaels deciding to have a comeback match in Saudi Arabia. I'm like, you know what? That's a bit of a fuck you to fans in the US. Do your comeback on the soil here. Otherwise, it's pretty fucking transparent while you're doing it. I think it'd be. I think they have to be careful with it because I think there's a big fuck you to that as well. I think Austin, Austin coming back having a second match. I think it should happen on North American soil. It should happen on North American soil. But again, I think this is the kind of thing that they can absolutely do again this year. But as I said, the more they do it, the more the veneer of the thing is going to start to crack and the novelty is going to wear off. And at some point, this is inevitable. This is what a lot of wrestlers have problems with, but for multiple reasons, and I understand them. You got to know when to quit when you're ahead. Leave the crowd wanting more. It's a precept of show business in general. You leave the crowd wanting more. You have your encore at the end of the concert. The audience is still up on their feet, wanting another encore. Now we'll come back next time. They'll want to see us again because they want more. We'll come back again. It's just good business. A lot of wrestlers. Undertaker didn't know when to quit. Undertaker had multiple times where he could have been like, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead, but he couldn't. Austin, I would assume it's a good business head on his shoulders. He has to be careful as well because he, like John Cena, are involved in a lot of, projects in Hollywood, so on and so forth, and I'm convinced that John Cena pulled out of SummerSlam, even though it was only heavily rumored, but I'm convinced that he ended up pulling himself from SummerSlam last year because of the Vince allegations. Because of all of his Hollywood projects, he didn't want to be associated with that. Why would anyone? Yes, he went to Vince's birthday party. Okay, let's talk about this another time. I want to stick to my point here. Whereas Austin as well has interests in Hollywood, TV and whatnot. He's got to be careful. And I'd also be careful. If I'm Steve Austin, I'm looking at the impression that The Undertaker left behind. And I'm not entirely 100% convinced I want to go down that exact route where I'm like, I can't stop. I want one more match. I want one more match. I want one more match. And I understand how wrestlers at some point go where it's like, I just have to wrestle. That's all I can do. That's all I know how to do. I'm addicted. I got to get this. I got to get one more match. Got to get one more. I understand. I completely understand. That's it. It's like, I'm all for another WrestleMania match. I think it's a very good idea. It continues to feed my agenda that WWE cannot build new stars. That's fine. But I like Stone Cold. Always liked them. I liked the match I liked how the match was put together for WrestleMania. I'm sure they can do something at WrestleMania 38. They want to bring him back for 39. That's fantastic. And I'm sure they'll be able to do something as compelling. Then after that, after a second time, we have to start wondering about the dosage. Is this a little too much? Are we going a little too far here? We'll see. We'll see. I don't think I'll have time to speak about the NWA. Aw. It's not necessarily a subject I'm really burnt out on it. But you know what I'll probably end up doing? Probably end up talking about it on the Going Broadway show, which I record live on Fridays at lunch hour. Come have lunch with Warren, and I record it for members only. It's live. Everything I don't talk about on the main show, I save for the members. More stuff just for the members because I love the members. So become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel right here. I want to preview this weekend the New Japan Pro Wrestling and Stardom historic crossover show. That's not just words. That's the name of the show. Just in case you're not aware. Historic crossover show that is going to be taking place on November 20th this weekend from Tokyo, Japan in the Ariake Arena. Live only on pay-per-view. If you're excited to watch this show, just keep in mind that this is a pay-per-view. You can't just get it with your New Japan World subscription. It's available via New Japan, and I think maybe via the Stardom World streaming service. I'm not sure, but I know it's available via the New Japan service. So you're going to want to plunk down a few extra dollars for this one. And I would say, as far as, they're not mincing words here when they're calling it the historic crossover match, historic, and it's a cross, right? Like it's an X crossover. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it for multiple reasons, and for stuff that I feel that not enough people are talking about as well. And hopefully we can get some conversation going. Hopefully you will listen to this and you will hit up your haunts, your Discords, your Twitters, your wherever you hang out, and you're like, you know what? There's some significance here to this show that we do need to be discussing. So the backstory here, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but Bushiroad, parent company of New Japan, purchased Stardom a couple of years ago, and we were all expecting some form of synergy that was going to happen, right? To use those delicious corporate terms. There was going to be some synergy between the two companies moving forward on some level. And it turns out that, and we saw that earlier this summer when the New Japan Brass unveiled the IWGP World Women's Championship, an IWGP title for women, which technically, right, puts it under the New Japan umbrella, despite the fact that the belt itself is going to be part of Stardom shows. From what I understand, it's going to be included into the Stardom environment, but also we'll have that possibility to show up on New Japan shows as well, where the International World Grand Prix it has its official jurisdiction. The Stardom fans that I follow, that I chat with, that I read and listen to. This show seems to be a bit of a mixed bag for them. I think as New Japan fans, there's a lot of, and to a degree for New Japan fans as well, but I don't feel it as strong. For New Japan fans, I think what they're feeling, I think more the hardcore New fans, they're seeing women's wrestling showing up on New Japan, and they're like, this is strange. Doesn't make quite sense because the women have their promotions. Why are we starting to try and dilute isn't the right word, but why suddenly are we making this move when everything was working so well, right? I significantly believe that this move was principally done to help perception of New Japan in North America, which runs multiple shows and multiple shows without women on it because it's New Japan. But when you go to North America, when you head to North America, we have there's cultural differences, and we have expectations to see, women represented on cards in any way, shape, or form. Wrestling is specifically, though, because you can have valets, but what I mean specifically women wrestling on cards. So I think that this was a business decision to continue their expansion into North America. I think as New Japan's relationship with AEW has solidified, truly has become stronger and stronger, and now that New Japan feels that they have a better window to attract fans to New Japan, they feel that they need to maybe cater to these sensibilities a little more, which it's a very touch and go subject for multiple reasons. I don't want necessarily to get into because I can't defend them really. So I'm not, I don't want to get into it too much. So I think that there's a subset of fans, of New Japan fans, that really don't care for this. I myself, I think this is pretty cool. I think this, at some point, this is how you make progress. This is how you do change. If you never expose people to new things, you have the platform, the venues, the capacity to expose people to new experiences, new things. Why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you go ahead and do it? Why wouldn't you try, right? Maybe some of you right here are, you don't necessarily listen to New Japan. You're listening to me talk about it, and I always talk about it with a certain amount of passion because I love New Japan. It's my favorite promotion. And maybe you're like, you know what? Maybe eventually I will check this out. Maybe I'll text Warren, I'll DM Warren, I'll be like, hey, can you recommend me a couple of matches to start me off, kind of thing. And as small as my platform is, I'd like to think that we can try to look at, we can try different things. We can look at different things. And, if you never experiment, you never know what's going to work. You never know if it's going to work or if it's going to fail. You're going to do your best for it not to fail, but sometimes it's just not going to work out. But honestly, trying is better than doing nothing. At least you tried to rock the boat. There's nothing good out of the status quo. Status quo in wrestling is the worst possible thing to happen in the wrestling business. The wrestling business is good when it's changing, when there's excitement, when there is possibility for the unexpected. That's when pro wrestling is at its best. When it's just the status quo, nothing changes and it's always the same and there's no possibilities for growth anywhere, it gets fucking boring. There's a little soapbox for you. The Stardom fans that I also follow and chat with, again, they're a mixed bag. I have a lot of people who are very excited about the card. I'm very excited to, very curious to see how these mixed matches go. But there's an underlying fear from a lot of fans as well, that they're afraid that New Japan might swallow Stardom. That it just eventually Stardom just might end up becoming the women's division of New Japan, which is what a lot of fans are afraid of. And I think it's a legitimate concern, but hard to imagine in the very short to midterm. I think things would have to get very dire for Stardom to go down that route, because if Stardom is existing right now and doing well and doing better in the past 2 years than it ever has, as far as live gates go, pay-per-view buys, people subscribing to the streaming services, it's currently the number 2 promotion in Japan as far as live attendance goes. It's New Japan and it's Stardom. The second biggest drawing wrestling company in the world, in Japan, is not Pro Wrestling Noah. It's not DDT. It's not All Japan. It's Stardom. So there's no reason to fear short-term, mid-term, that this is going to happen. You never know what can happen down the road, of course. I think it becomes it can become a point of contention and discussion if financially things start going poorly for Stardom. But there's such a good upswing right now. I think there's a lot of optimism in the Stardom locker room from the wrestlers. I think they're seeing a lot more opportunities being open to them, especially in regards with this card here. I think there's a lot of optimism right now. I don't think that this is an acquisition that is meant to be an absorption. I don't think that this is meant to just be swallowed up by New Japan and here's our women. I don't think that's what it is. I think only the hardest of hardcores of Stardom fans who have no perception of the wrestling business are completely opposed to this, because there are people who are extremely mad about this. They're in the minority, and I think they just don't have. I think they're fans, and that's fine. But if they have any perception of how this can improve / affect, no question, but even improve the business as it already has, as the acquisition of Bushiroad has done so far in turning Stardom's finances and security around. Rossi was not making, bless his heart, wasn't making all that much money during the late 2010s with Stardom. He was scraping by. I know this. So if conditions improve for everyone, for promoters, but specifically for the talent, what more do you want? I think it's really people who are truly mad about this, people who are truly mad about this, are mad about it because they don't factor in any business aspects of pro wrestling. They just see their little thing, and it's like, okay. So this is a very interesting card. I'm gonna break it down, and we're gonna start with the main event going down, if you're okay with that, because I think the main event is a significant. It's very significant. It's going to be the finals of the IWGP Women's Title Tournament. I'm going to crown the very first IWGP Women's Champion between Mayu Iwatani and Kairi, aka Kairi Sane for those of us here, Kairi Hojo for others. So this is going to be the match that is going to top off this crossover show. Now, these are women who have a long-standing rivalry. They've wrestled multiple times. These two women are part of the old guard of New Japan. Fought many times before, and now it's for the creation of a brand new title. Whoever wins here is going to be the first, and going to have their name etched in history. Mayu, of course, celebrated Stardom wrestler, considered to be they call her the icon. She's the face. She's the she's the Hiroshi Tanahashi. She's the John Cena. She's the one who's been around and, who's been a draw, who's done it all in the company and who they still lean on in certain circumstances. She's still there. She was the SWA champion. She defended it at the Battle on 44th Street a couple of weeks ago in October, just before Halloween, against Kylan King on a New Japan of America show. But afterwards, she dropped it. She didn't drop it, excuse me, that's the wrong term. She vacated the title. So the SWA title, which is essentially, like, it's kind of, just so we're all clear here, and I don't want to take into consideration that everyone knows what I'm talking about. The SWA title is kind of like it's Stardom's foreigner title, where anyone who comes in from outside Japan or who can hold the title, and it's a title usually that's used to be defended elsewhere. So someone comes in on an excursion, wins the title, goes back to their promotions and goes back to their territories, let's say in the UK, in the US, wherever, Mexico, and they defend the title. They defend the SWA title in their territories. Mayu held the title. Shuri as well held the title. So recently it's been Japanese women who have been holding this championship. But after the Battle on 44th Street pay-per-view, Mayu vacated the title. So essentially there's no compromises on the big show. There's no Mayu has a title, so no, we're coming in like clear focus. Mayu said herself, said it herself. I want to focus on this title here. So that's adding some significance already to this finals. You're not having someone coming in already with a championship strapped around their waist. There's significance to the gesture of vacating the title. So that's very interesting moving in here. And the women have been building this up. They've been making this feel important. During the press conference, Kairi Sane said that Antonio Inoki, she was pointing this out, was the first to carry the IWGP standard, and that brand has grown to this point. And she says that she wants to bring those letters into a new era. So, connecting to the core of what the IWGP, the International Grand Prix symbol, means. Iwatani says, she drove home the fact that this show is built for creating new eyeballs on the Stardom product, right? A lot of fans came to us. This is what she said, translated, of course. A lot of fans came to us through showcase matches at the Tokyo Dome for New Japan. I'm wholly confident that this will create even more new fans. If you come and check it out, you'll be drawn in. So, in as such, what these two women here are doing, and what Mayu made abundantly clear, this show exists to create new, fresh eyeballs to the Stardom product. Maybe you're completely into New Japan, and you're not a Joshi person. You can't get into it for whatever reasons. Well, Bushiroad, New Japan, Stardom, they're all banking on the fact that you're going to tune in to watch all of this, and you're going to be so excited about Joshi, about Stardom, that you're gonna sub. You're gonna sub to Stardom World. You're gonna get real into it, right? So this is the basis of the show here. But I can't put over enough how significant it is to have this show be main evented by this match. Mayu, Kairi, these two women are Stardom megastars. Kairi, of course, all the success in North America. Mayu is an icon in and about herself. She's maybe not as well known to the general populace of North American wrestling fans as Kairi Sane is, because Kairi had a whole other window to the world as that Mayu had. But Mayu, for Joshi, for women's wrestling fans, she's absolutely significant. And these are icons. These are terribly talented, high-level premier athletes that are going to have a fantastic match in the main event, because you know they're going to pour everything out to make sure that this show ends with a bang. And it's ending the show. Look, we've got in the semi-main event, Will Ospreay is not main eventing the show. But even more significantly than this, ladies, gentlemen, non-binary friends, there's the great Muda, who is having his advertised final match on New Japan for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And the women are main eventing. And I don't know how this is not bigger news than it is, than is being reported. The great Muda is a legend. He is legitimately the Hulk Hogan of Japanese pro wrestling. He commands respect. He is a superstar to this day. He shows up. Saw him a couple of weeks ago on a New Japan show where he attacked the Great Okan. He showed up, he unmasked. People lost their shit in the arena because he came up as a surprise. It would legitimately be like John Cena showing up out of nowhere on a Raw show without the music and the fanfare. People go nuts. It's the same thing. The great Muda is having his last advertised show in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Who is main eventing this show? Mayu Iwatani and Kairi Sane. And yet, everything we're talking about over the past week or so is Billy Corgan. There's not enough women out there to put on a good wrestling show. Fucking Tyrus. The woke trolls hate me. My haters. This is all we're fucking talking about. We're doing performances off of Billy Corgan doing the absolute promoter shtick, just out there telling bullshit just to grab the headlines, while in the meantime, in Japan, there is a historic show where men and women will be wrestling not only on the same card, but in the same matches. And the women are main eventing. What are we even doing? How is this not on the lips of every fucking wrestling fan? Oh, I know why. I'm being hyperbolical here. This is significant. We're all getting pissed off at Billy Corgan, but then we have actual things that we can sink our teeth into. We have stuff happening. Important, real deal, number one, top tier stuff. The great Muda is one, he's second from the top. His match it's behind Mayu and Kairi. It's behind Ospreay and Shota Umino. It's being main evented by women. And no one's connecting. Knowing it, no one is bringing out the significance of this. We'll come up with all sorts of arguments and counter arguments at Billy to tell him, you fucking suck. You don't know what you're talking about. But then when it's actually time, when we actually have something significant of importance, it's all fly. No, we're not talking about it. No, we'll have a stink over Sarah Logan showing up. Who's going to be in the War Games match? All fine. This is meaningful. And it's important. And this is a crucial moment in Japanese professional wrestling history. I don't know what to tell you. I think Mayu should win the title if we're going to go down this route now. Now that I'm done shouting. I think Mayu should win the title because she is the last one left of the original Stardom crew to still be there. She never left, actually. Io's gone. Kairi left. She came back. She's a part-timer now. Yoshiko? It's like, they all left. They all came. Yoshiko came back. I think she did a match or two last year, something like that. But, they all left. But Mayu never left. And Mayu, on top of that, it's fairly well documented. She was a terrible pro wrestler when she started. She was bad. The reputation that she has for being clumsy, so on and so forth. There's a lot of it that has to do with, how she used to wrestle back when she started, like in 2011, 2012, something like that. She's always been there. She's literally, like I said, the John Cena, the Hiroshi Tanahashi, where when everyone was going away, she put the company on her back. She always stuck around. She was always loyal, faithful, always wrestled, has always maintained a high standard for herself. She's adored by the fans, and I think people would like to see her more. I think Joshi fans would like to see her more in North America. It was a big deal that she showed up at Battle on 44th Street, and I think people would be inclined to. I think that would draw more people to go see a New Japan of America show, knowing that Mayu Iwatani would be there. I think there's a lot of value to her name and what she represents, and she can still go. We're not talking like this isn't a Ric Flair situation here where it's like, oh yeah, okay, she's a name, but she can't go anywhere. No, she's still fine. And she said it herself. Was it last year or the year, but fairly recently? Let's give ourselves a 24 month window where she said, she feels like she's on the tail end of her career. She's 36. Let's just make sure. Oh my God, she's not even as old as I thought. She's 29, and she was talking about her career ending, putting her career to bed. Not even close to as old as that. What did I think? Is it Kairi who's? Then it's Kairi, right? I have to be confused. Kairi's 34, so that's probably what I was going. All right, pardon me. So I think there's a lot of value, and it would help cement her legacy for. I think it would cement her legacy even more for what she's brought to women's wrestling in Japan. Being the first IWGP women's title, I think being the first to carry it, I think would be an absolute honor for her, and really a great exclamation mark on her career, like something that she's really grown into. It'd be fantastic. I think it would. She's in a position to transcend, not unlike Hiroshi Tanahashi and John Cena. She's in this position. I think you go all in on it because she truly is the icon. And again, nothing wrong with Kairi Sane winning it, and I've argued in the past that, putting it on Kairi would mean instant name recognition in the US. So I'm like, if Bushiroad wants to really get serious about sending more women from Stardom overseas to do US shows, not unlike TJPW's been doing, right? Sending a lot of their women to work the indies and pop up on AEW and so on and so forth. if they want to get in on this, they have to, if they want to have the perception of being the premier Joshi show, to the American audience, they have to push hard. And I'm like, what better way than to belt up a wrestler that everyone in the US that has been a wrestling fan for the past 5 to 6 years will know of, will have seen wrestle, and probably fell in love with at the same time, because Kairi was fantastic, right? So, the thing that, I used to be more inclined, I always tend to think of the business side of things first and foremost, right? So I was like, the Kairi Sane makes a lot of sense to me. And I think it's not a bad choice either. But Kairi's a part-timer. Is this a title that you want to debut on someone who's not a full-time member of your roster? It could be a choice, if you want to do the part-timer thing and have her work more maybe in North America. Look, I don't know. There's a lot of good to be said for Mayu getting the title here. I think that's what they should do. I think it would be a significant milestone for her career, which she absolutely deserves. But I'm telling you, I still don't know. I still do not understand how this is not that the women headlining a show where the great Muda is also on the show having his last match in New Japan. I don't know how this is not the main talking point across all of pro wrestling right now. I don't get it. And look, I'm not stupid. And I've been around the block a couple of times, and I get it, right? They are saying this is the Great Muda's last match. That doesn't mean it's Kaiji Muto's last match in New Japan. I fucking get it. I know that from here to February, Kaiji Muto could show up and have one last match with one dude on the roster. I get it. Okay? But the significance of the Great Muda being on this card and being his last match while two women are main eventing that same show, there's probably a story in that too that we don't know. Let's break down the rest of the card. IWGP United States Heavyweight Title match. Will Ospreay, the champ, is going to be defending against Shota Umino. It's a match I am ridiculously excited to see. I saw their match that they had at Royal Quest 2 a couple of months ago. I thought it was very, very good. But to the point where I was like, they're holding back. Sometimes when you watch enough wrestling and you watch enough specific wrestlers where you're like, nah, you're not pulling everything out right now. I know you're holding something back right now. I know you're not. I know you've got something under your sleeve here. You're keeping one in the chamber. I wasn't expecting this, but at the Battle Autumn show, Will Ospreay defends his title against Tetsuya Naito in a fantastic, excellent match. Shota Umino comes out to challenge him for the title. Roughneck Shota Umino. And we're going to underscore here, we're going to emphasize this here. Here at the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, we are going to continue to refer to Shota Umino by his given name, Shooter Shota Umino. I don't know what this roughneck business is about. Kind of corny. So they had a great match at Royal Quest 2. I'm excited for this one. And if I'm a betting man, I say they put the title on Umino. I think they brought him back with fanfare, and big surprise return at Battle Autumn. Went into the audience to celebrate. As I pointed out, still holding on to what Papa Mox taught him. I think they belt him up. Shota is super over in the United States as well. He's super over because of the Jon Moxley rub still. So, if they want this kid to hit the American scene a little more, they want him to be the representative, whatever, I think it's a good idea to belt him up like that. And then what that does is that it opens up Will Ospreay for Wrestle Kingdom for a special match, for something that maybe a few people have been anticipating for a while now. That doesn't need to have any titles involved. That's the way I see it. And you can even go, look, I think it's a fairly safe bet that Jon Moxley will be on the Wrestle Kingdom show. I think that's a fairly safe bet. Why doesn't he come back for his U.S. title and then take him off of his son? Or try to. We got Kazuchika Okada, Toru Yano, and the Great Muta taking on the United Empire faction of Aaron Henare, Great O'Khan, and Jeff Cobb. As I mentioned in my unhinged ranting, this is part of Keiji Muto's retirement tour. This is advertised as the Great Muta's last match in New Japan. Again, I need to emphasize this just to make sure that everyone knows that, so that no one will actually me. I know that that the fact that they're insisting on Great Muta absolutely opens the door for a Kaiji Muto match in New Japan. I know, it's fine. We're good. Let's keep going. Let's keep it rolling. Look, this is going to be what it is. It's going to be a feel-good moment. It's fine. We get a 10-man tag match where LIJ, Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, Sanada, Shingo, and Tetsuya Naito are going to be taking on the United Empire faction of Francesco Akira, Gideon Gray, Kyle Fletcher, Mark Davis, and TJP. I think we know who's taking the pin in this match. I am a big fan of LIJ multi-man matches. This is going to be a blast because you've got the heart and soul here. Still no sign of still no sign. There's no sign of Titan in here. He'll probably come out here, but I think this is going to be another feel good moment. We're going to have the LIJ guys go over. Lots of seeds to sow here in regards to World Tag League and Super Junior Tag League. Because Bushi and Titan, that's weird. This is why it's weird that Titan is not in this match, but Bushi and Titan are in Super Junior Tag League, as are Francesco Akira and TJP, the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. And Sanada and Naito are also in World Tag League, as are Aussie Open. So there you go. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now we're going to start talking about the matches that really make up the mystique of this card here, because there's a lot of mixed tag team matches here. First of all, we're going to have Hiroshi Tanahashi and Utami Hayashishita versus Hiroki Goto and Maika. So from what we understand, all of these matches are going to be under mixed tag rules, which kind of sucks. I can understand that New Japan might be a little wary about the intergender stuff, which I think is, they're being pussies. But baby steps, I guess, so on and so forth. I like the composition of these matches, right? Tanahashi, of course, the old school ace. I heard someone call him the legacy ace recently, and that's a really good term for him. With Utami, one half of that extraordinary Match of the Year candidate from last year with Shuri that she put on, just absolutely outstanding stuff. Fantastic wrestler, and arguably maybe and one of the top women in Stardom right now. So she fits in with Hiroshi Tanahashi here, with Maika and Hiroki Goto. And Maika, for those of you who are familiar with Hiroki Goto, Maika is kind of like, she's the female Goto, whereas she's kind of a samurai. They do the waterfall thing, and in the back, they do the whole. They have the same type of energy. I think like this is a pairing where I'm like, this works. I can, these are the, they're the warriors, the Bushido Code warriors. So I'm like, okay, I'm okay with this. This is fun. And Tanahashi and Utami, I don't know if you guys saw this on Twitter, TikTok. It popped up last week with with all the hype, the initial hype for the announcement of the card and so on and so forth. But Utami and Tanahashi did a TikTok, one of these where they're dancing, and Tanahashi, he's very charismatic and comfortable performing for people. He does the air guitar shit. Y'all know about Tanahashi, right? But Utami is all business, right? She doesn't hit the ring and do the air guitar and puts on a show. Now she comes in to beat people up. She's maybe closer to a Kazuchika Okada than she is to a Hiroshi Tanahashi, if we're drawing parallels as opposed to comparisons. Parallels. So Tanahashi, he's doing the dance, and he's fucking 40-plus-year-old Tanahashi doing one of these dances, and he's doing one of these, and he's doing the moves. And Utami is trying to do it with him. Well, she's doing the basic moves, but she is so uncomfortable. It is adorable. It is so fucking funny. Because you have Tanahashi who's just doing the shit. She's trying to keep on. And at some point, he starts doing the air guitar shit. She completely breaks. Like, nice try. That was fucking hilarious. And we get a mixed 8-man tag team match where we have Black Desire, which is a tag team made up of Momo Watanabe and Starlight Kid, and the Suzuki-gun duo of Duki and El Desperado, taking on Meltier, didn't pronounce that right for sure, Natsupoi and Tam Nakano, and the Suzuki-gun boys of Taichi and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. I watched the press conference into this, and these two teams were featured during the press conference. And it was so much fun to see their interactions. Natsupoi and Tam Nakano brought lunch, because this was happening over lunchtime in Japan. So they brought lunch for Kanemaru and Taichi, who were like overwhelmed and, we're like, what the hell is going on? So they opened up, they had little bags, they had little bag lunch, little bento boxes or whatever, and they just give them to the dudes. And, Kanemaru was like, old, Kanemaru being grumpy, and while Taichi's, looking like a complete scumbag, and he's just gobbling the food down. That was delightful. But the highlight of that press conference was Despe, Duki, Starlight Kid, and Momo. And because they were all into it. They were like, I'm so excited for this match. And for this team particularly. Because they are all scumbags. Like, it's Suzuki-gun, right? They're already... Doki, Desperado is the king of the scumbags. Starlight Kid, Momo, scumbags. I am so excited to see how this goes down. And then you realize that New Japan is sort of pushing for, these tag teams to have names. Like they gave a name to, they're creating merch for some of these tag teams. Like Goto and Maika, they have their they have their own line of t-shirts. And they did the same thing for Desperado and Starlight Kid. Of course, like the two only, Starlight Kid is the only wrestler in Stardom, if I'm not mistaken, who wrestles with a mask. Desperado's not the only one who wrestles with a mask in New Japan, but the association was very, very easy to do, especially since they're scumbags. and they have their own merch. They have a fantastic t-shirt. I am so stoked for this match. But here's something that I want to mention here, because during the match, they're like, Desperado starts talking about how he's connecting with Starlight Kid, and how they're on the same level, and he's like, the next thing that I want to do, Starlight Kid and I were talking, and I'd love to get her into a match with with myself against Jun Kasai and Rina Yamashita. And I'm like, what? Why are we okay? And this is stuff that can happen through Takumi Shinoku's promotion, right? JTO Wrestling, which Desperado wrestles on often and does the deathmatch shit with Jun Kasai, right? I'm like, what? This would be fantastic. What are you talking about? Let's do this soon. And this was all, I don't speak a lick of Japanese, but this was all coming through the New Japan Global translations on Twitter. Then all of a sudden, I realized that tweet gets deleted. I'm like, oh, did someone speak out of turn here? I was like, that fucking rules. Desperado, Starlight Kid versus Rina and Jun Kasai. Are you kidding me? And here's another little tidbit that I found interesting, also from their part of the press conference. They were talking about how they were ready to disregard the rules of mixed match challenges, because Desperado is we've wrestled women before. It doesn't matter. We can do this. It's fine. And they were outright saying, we won't follow the rules. We won't follow this shit. Who cares? Okie dokie. So, if there's ever a tag match where we could see maybe some intergender stuff, well, we'll see. But, they dropped the seed hit there. Could be really interesting. I mean, let's go, right? And if there's ever a match where it could happen, it's with all these scumbags. It all makes sense. And we got a mixed tag team match. Another one, Shuri is going to be teaming up with Filthy Tom Lawler to take on Julia and Zack Sabre Jr. And what I find interesting in this pairing here with Shuri and Tom Lawler, it was the Shuri and Utami match of last year, that one, the match of the year one, that Tom Lawler watched and converted him to watching Joshi. That was his entry point, and from that point on, as Tom Lawler, he has he works Observer Radio and so on. He has been a vocal proponent of Stardom from that point on, from that match. So I would not even be remotely surprised that Lawler requested this. I said, I want to wrestle with Shuri. I want to be her tag team partner. I wouldn't even be surprised. I would not be surprised at all. As far as Julia and Zack Sabre Jr., that's a very fun pairing. I think Julia's from London. Not that it really matters, but Julia has a ground game. Don't get me wrong, she's not Zack Sabre Jr., because of course, where he's landed in his career, he's in a league of his own, I guess. But the idea that they're both technical wrestlers, or at least have some ground game, I think that's an interesting pairing as well. See, I feel like they're leaning into personalities here. When people tell me that in New Japan there's no characters, it's not a question of characters, it's personalities. It's personalities. That's what makes this rich and fun. We get a 6-woman tag match here. The Queen's Quest group of Azumi, Lady C, and Saya Kamitani going to be taking on the Donna Del Mondo group of Himeka, Mai Sakurai, and Tekla. It should be a lot of fun. A pure trios match here, which are always exciting in New Japan. 8-man tag match. The Chaos group of Leo Rush, Tomohiro Ishii, Yo, and Yoshihashi be taking on the House of Torture. Evil Show, Yujiro, and Dick Togo. Y'all already know what I think about that one. And then on the pre-show, we're going to get Alex Coughlin, Clark Connors, Gabriel Kidd, and Kevin Knight taking on Fujita, Oscar Lube, Oiwa, and Yuto Nakashima. A bunch of New Japan Dojo graduates and not quite graduates yet. Good to see Gabriel Kidd back out there. And there will also be a Stardom Ranbo on the pre-show. If you don't know what or at least I think it's going to be a Ranbo. I don't know. I'm open to anything, but this is going to be the match where they're going to put as many Stardom women on there just to file them out there. Hey, everyone, let's get a paycheck. Let's go. And you're going to find out. You're going to see all the rest of the Stardom crew there. You know what? This is going to be a fun show. It's going to be a fun show. And I want everyone to get out there and tell your favorite podcasters, tell your favorite news people. I want you all to reach out to them and tell them, why the hell are you not going apeshit bananas over the fact that Kairi and Mayu Iwatani are headlining a show, despite the fact that the Great Muta is booked on that show and is advertised as his last match in New Japan? Why are you not putting that over? That's what I want you to do. That's your homework. That's your homework as we wrap up the weekly wrestling inspection. That's right. I just took the opportunity to finish my soda. This was a long one? Was this a long one? I completely lost track of time. And there's so much stuff I didn't talk about yet. Like the NWA. But honestly, look, there's been too much of that shit. There's been too much focus on nonsense. And I much prefer that we focus on real significant events in women's wrestling as opposed to garbage thoughts from attitude era brained promoters. So, on that note, I want to wish everyone a very, 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 very good week. I hope you enjoy everything that you watch and enjoy and consume. I hope you kiss your loved ones. I hope you pet your pets and feed them and give them water too, and take them out. But I thank you mostly for tuning in, for listening, either here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Consider subscribing or on your favorite podcast app, Apple Podcasts, 5-star reviews, 5-star ratings on Spotify, all that good stuff. But I've talked enough for tonight. I'm going to leave you on that note. Be sure to be back here on Thursday for the Dynamite review. AEW Full Gear review is up and ready. You can listen to it right now. Otherwise, I love you all, and I'll see you next time.